YouTube founded community, Vince Guaraldi fans, random people on the internet. My name is Giggens, and we're here today to talk about the brand new upcoming release. It's the Easter Beagle, Charlie Brown by Vince Guaraldi. Original soundtrack recording, first time released on any format. Up next on their first time releases of any of these albums on any format is It's the Easter Beagle, Charlie Brown. And this is one of my favorite ones, not just because the special is really fun, but the music on this one is optimistic, cheery, and a little bit springy, but also finds some other moods to play in. Like the song Snoopy in Woodstock is a little bit like kind of a growl, which is really cool. I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself here, but this one was recorded on January 30th and March 1st, 1974 at Wally Heater Studios in San Francisco, California. We got Vince on piano, electric harpsichord, and the electric guitar, Sewer McCain on bass, Robert Clare on flute, Glenn Cronkite on drums, and Elliot Zygmunt on drums as well, sharing drum duties. And not only do you get the songs from this special, you get a wonderful bonus track recorded a couple of years ago, and I'll get to that further in the review, but that thing is an absolute treat. What I find so fascinating about Vince and the crew that he'd work with on whichever release he was working on is the unmatched skill to create this instantly memorable music for these little cues, strewn about throughout this show. These little tiny musical earworms stick with you because when you add music to a character, a cartoon character, I should say, you're giving it life. Because of the feelings created with music, these feelings that the characters are having are somehow relatable. Because, even at a young age, you don't know how to explain your feelings or how to, understand your feelings or talk about them. But there's something subconscious about watching someone's facial expressions and then tying the music to that and putting those pieces together and understanding what's happening in the scene. You create context from that. And Vince and his gang were absolute masters at that. So when you see Charlie Brown sulking around and the music is a little bit more melancholic, you associate melancholic music with how someone looks when they're sad. Or if you see Snoopy dancing with a bunch of bunnies and it sounds fun, you understand happiness. And that's the magic of Vince Guaraldi and his team. Whoever he was working with at that time, they understand that context. So when you were a little kid, like I said before, you can't articulate those things, but if you watch it on a screen, you put the pieces together and that kind of lives with you. There's nothing more special than taking these already beloved characters that people have at this point loved for 25 years and 24 years at this point when this special came out, and understanding their themes, understanding their quirks, just from reading the comic strip. But when you put them into the medium of watching them move and talk and interact with each other scene by scene, when you throw the music on top of it, it adds another dimension to already deep characters. Musically, the record ranges everywhere from jazz to lighter jazz to jazz funk to baroque to classical. It's kind of all over the shop, which is kind of a common theme for Vince Guaraldi and his gang, especially with including Bach and Beethoven, whatever the classical pieces he incorporates, and then making them just funky enough to be of the time period. The Easter theme is this total baroque flute-laden track that sounds like it could be played on a bright spring day at the Renaissance Fair. It's a little whimsical, a little medieval, a little dreamy. But then you get tracks like Snoopy and Woodstock, and like I said earlier, this thing's a little bit moody. It's got a little bit of a growl to it. It's effortlessly cool. It's just tough enough but not aggressive. The guitar bends, the noodling, the shuffling of the drums, everything about this just feels like Snoopy and Woodstock acting really, really cool. It's exactly what it sounds like. One of my favorite things about these records too is that Vince's take on Linus and Lucy, a song that's the most commonly known track from the whole Peanuts catalog, he loved taking the bridge of this song and then using that refrain as the Linus and Lucy of the soundtrack. On side B, he actually uses more of the riff itself and does some different descending lines with it, which is really cool. So he's always playing on the original riff. He never wanted to repeat that riff over and over and over again. And I think he knew the power of that bridge being so essential to the original part of the song that you have that buildup, which comes back to the do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do. But when you have that bridge just on its own and play within that frame, it's almost like an entirely different song, even though it is the same chords. Mind-blowingly inventive, such a talented guy. Woodstock's Dream is one of my favorite tracks on this one. It gets reprised many times throughout the record, but it's almost like a warm, melancholic track. It's got this sad, tinkling piano, super warm bass as well, but I like the sleigh bells on it. And there's moments where it gets up to what I would call a chorus, if you will, which is much more happier, chirpier, optimistic. And the song itself feels so substantial, like it's almost ready to be on the radio in the early 70s. And if you hadn't told me this was Vince Guaraldi, you can almost mistake it for a George Harrison song. Give it a listen, see if you hear the George. Woodstock's Pad is another cool song. This has like a Philly soul type of vibe, which I'm really digging. And the remainder of the tracks in this record, like Easter Egg Soup or Marcy's song, Snoopy's Gumballs, a lot of these are like that funky, groovy jazz, which just feels right for the era, feels right for the scene. It's also just really nice on the ears. The last track on this album, Woodstock Medley, which has Woodstock's Wake Up, Little Birdie, Woodstock's Dream, Thanksgiving Theme, and a Little Birdie reprise. This was recorded in 2021, November 16th, at Hyde Street Studio, formerly known as Wally Hader, featuring David Benoit on piano, Seward McCain back on bass, Mike Clark on drums, engineered by Eric Glosser, mixed by Clark Germain at Wonderworld Studio. And this is an absolute treat because like a lot of these songs are brief, but when you incorporate them into one longer melody, it's just so much fun to listen to. And David is such an articulate student of Vince Guaraldi because his phrasing and the way he lands on these keys sounds just like Vince. It's so convincing, huh? Like if you didn't tell me, if you said, hey, this is a Vince Guaraldi song, he's playing piano, I'd believe you because David's playing is so succinct. He absolutely studied Vince's playing and knew exactly what his phrasings were, the way he'd land on certain keys, the way he'd attack certain keys, the timing, the signatures. A really amazing piano player. And it's kind of cool because like it sounds like Vince Guaraldi. So like it's almost like if the guys got back together again. It's a really loving tribute to some incredible work. This record for me, and I say this with each release that comes out, this might be my favorite one because the songs can be springy, they could be melancholic, they could be classical, they could be jazz, but all of it feels cohesive. When you put this record on, you're in that world of It's the Easter Beagle. Nothing feels out of place. You know, for as sophisticated as the playing is on this record, it's immensely enjoyable. And even the more melancholic tracks have a little bit of a cheeriness underneath them, somehow, some way. So for me, this is easily an 8 out of 10 record, maybe even a 9 out of 10. I love it. The cover art is fantastic. Here's the back. The booklet is wonderful. You got a big picture of Woodstock's Pad on the back. Some great shots of the guys in the studio with liner notes from Sean Mendelson. In the front, you got Jason Mendelson and also Derek Bang doing a lot of great liner notes about the recording sessions and what Vince's life was like at this point, and just a lot of fun to dig into. The record's available on black and purple vinyl. This is the standard black. Looks super sharp. As is tradition at this point, this record was pressed with bio vinyl, and it sounds immaculate. It's probably a combination of the tapes having not been touched since 1974, so they just haven't been used, but this record sounds fantastic. The top end is clear and crisp and smooth. The bottom end is rich. The mid-range is fulfilling. It sounds like they're in the room with you, and I love hearing them count in on some songs, which is super cool, but overall, the packaging is always top-notch. The team knows exactly what they're doing, and they're presenting this stuff with so much care, so much respect, and so much love. And I'm here for the ride. I love these records. I play them all the time. They're just great to have on. And you hear the artistry, and it makes these specials of a whole different life. You appreciate the music so much more for the effort that went into it. For these things that have never been released till now. Like, how has this music never been released until 50 odd years after these things have come out? It's unbelievable, but I'm glad that they're doing it because they're doing really important work. So easily an 8 or 9 out of 10 for this one. I adore it. It comes out March 21st, so you're seeing this video early. Pre-order it now. Go out to your record stores to pre-order it for you or go pick it up online. It'll be available on streaming, on CD, and of course the LP, but get the LP. It's so much more fun. That's it. My name is Giggens. This has been It's the Easter Beagle, Charlie Brown. Thank you so much for watching. And thank you again to the Lee Mendelson team for sending me this record. I love it, and I never expect these things, but thank you so much for sending it. I really appreciate it. And that's it. Let me know your thoughts when this record comes out, and let me know below if you're excited to pick it up or if you've pre-ordered it already. But I highly recommend you do so if you're a jazz fan, a Snoopy fan, or just a fan of really great sounding music pressed really well. You'll really enjoy this. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.